Clause 4, context of the organization. Clause 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. ISO 42001, determine external and internal issues relevant to the purpose and intended outcome of EMS, include environmental condition of being affected or capable of affecting. ISO 9001, determine external and internal issues that are relevant to purpose and intended outcome of QMS, monitor and review information regarding the issues. ISO 45001, determine external and internal issues that are relevant to purpose and intended outcome of OHSMS. Next we go for clause 4.2, understanding the needs and aspirations of interested parties. ISO 14001, determine interested parties and their requirements that are relevant to EMS. While for ISO 9001, determine interested parties and their requirements that are relevant to QMS. And for ISO 45001, determine interested parties, workers and their requirements that are relevant to OHSMS. Next is clause 4.3, determining the scope of EMS, QMS and OHSMS. For ISO 14001, consider 4.1, 4.2 physical boundaries activities, its authority and ability to control and influence to establish scope. Maintain scope as documented information and available to interested parties. For ISO 9001, consider 4.1, 4.2 products and service offered. Maintain scope as documented information. Include product or services information and justification in scope. While for ISO 45001, consider 4.1, 4.2 plan, perform work-related activities, services or activities within its control to establish scope. Keep scope as documented information. Next, we go for clause 4.4, which is EMS, QMS and OHSMS. For ISO 40001, establish, implement, maintain and continually improve EMS according to international standards. While for ISO 9001, establish, implement, maintain and continually improve QMS according to international standard. And the last one is ISO 45001, establish, implement, maintain and continually improve OHSMS according to requirements. 5.1, leadership and commitment. Top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to ISO 14001, ISO 9001 and ISO 45001 by taking accountability for the effectiveness of the system, ensure that policy and objective are established and compatible with the strategic direction and context of an organization, ensure that integration, resource needed and intended outcomes that an organization need to achieve. And the last one is promote continual 5.2 organizational policy. For ISO 40001, the policy of EMS should appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization. This include the nature, scale and environmental impacts of its activities, products and services. For ISO 9001, the top management should establish, implement and maintain a quality policy that helps to meet the need of the customer and the other stakeholder effectively. And for ISO 45001, includes a commitment to provide a healthy working condition for the prevention of work-related injury appropriate to the purpose, size and context of the organization to the specific nature of OHS. 5.3, organizational roles, responsibilities and authorities. For ISO 14001, top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated within the EMS organizations. Ensure that the system conform to the requirement of the international standards and workers should report on the performance of the EMS, including environmental performance on top management. Next, we go for ISO 9001. Top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated and understood within the organization. Ensure that the integrity of the QMS is maintained and when changes to the QMS are planned and implemented. The last one is ISO 45001. Top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles within the OHSMS are assigned and communicated at all levels within the organization and maintained as documented information.
Now I'm going to explain about clause 6, that is planning. In ISO 40001, the organization shall establish, implement and maintain the process that need to meet the requirement in general. Environment aspect, compliance obligation and planning action. There are three organizations shall consider that for the first one, that is external and internal issue. Second, expectation of interested party. Third is scope of environment management system. In ISO 9001, the organization shall consider the external and internal issue that also determine risk and opportunity that need to be addressed too. First is ensure the quality management system in the place. Second is enhance the desired outcome. Third is prevent or reduce the undesirable effect. And the last one is achieve improvement. In ISO 45001, the organization shall consider the external and internal issue, require interested party and determine risk and opportunity that need to be addressed too. First is give assurance that OH and SMS can achieve its intended outcome. Second is prevent or reduce undesired effect. And the third, achieve continual improvement. Environmental aspect. In ISO 40001, determine the environmental aspect of its activity, product and service that can control and those can influence and the associate environmental impact. In ISO 9001, the organization must plan the action to address the risks and opportunities. How to integrate and apply the activities into the company quality management system. Examine the effectiveness of this action. This taken to address risks and opportunities that must be proportionate to the potential impact on confirming of the product. ISO 45001 hazard identification. Establish, implement and maintain a process for hazard identification that is ongoing and proactive. That is a compliance obligation. In ISO 14001, determine and have access to the organization environmental compliance responsibility. How the obligation apply to the organization and how to account for them when establishing. Implementing, maintaining and continually improving, that is environmental management system. While for ISO 45001, determination of legal requirement and other requirement. Determine and have access to the organization environmental compliance responsibility and how to apply the obligation to the organization and how to account for them when establishing, implementing, maintaining and continually improving the EMS. In a planning action in ISO 40001, significantly environmental aspect, compliance duty, risk and opportunity identification are also a part of the plan. And also for the ISO 45001 is to prepare to deal with the risk and opportunity as well as a legal response and to emergency situations. For 6.2 is planning to achieve the objective. In ISO 14001 environmental objective, it must be established at a relevant function and level, taking into account an organization, key environmental feature and associate compliance duty, risk and opportunity is faced. Environmental goal must be aligned with environmental policy, measure, monitor, communicate and change as needed. While for ISO 9001 quality objective, establish quality objective at relevant function, level and process that need for quality management system. The quality objective shall be consistent with quality policy, measure, take account into applicable requirement relevant and to conformity of product and service monitor be communicated and be updated as appropriate. The organization shall maintain documentation information on the quality objective. For ISO 45001 OH&S objective, the organization shall establish OH&S objective at a relevant and level in order to maintain and continually improve the OH&S performance. Consistent with OH&S policy, be measurable of performance, evaluations, be monitored, be communicated, and be updated as appropriate. The last one is 6.3, planning of change. In ISO 9001, when the organization determine that adjustment to its QMS are required, it must evaluate by following the factor. First is purpose of change and their potential consequences. Second is availability of the resources. Third, integrity of the quality management system. And the last one, allocation or relocation of responsibility and authorities.
For ISO 14001, the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the OH&S management system. For ISO 14001, organization should determine the necessary resources for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and improving the environmental management system. For ISO 9001, the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the quality management system. Organization shall consider the capabilities, constraint on existing internal resources, and what needed to obtain from external providers. For competence, ISO 45001 determine the necessary competence of workers that affects or can affect its OH&S performance, and to ensure that workers are competent, including the ability to identify hazard on the basis of appropriate education, training, or experience. For ISO 14001, determine the necessary competence of persons doing work under its control that affects its environmental performance and its ability to fulfill its compliance obligation. For ISO 9001, determine the necessary competence of persons doing work under its control that affects the performance and effectiveness of the quality management. For awareness, for ISO 45001, the workers should aware of OH&S policy and objective, the contribution to the effectiveness of the OH&S management system, including the benefits of improved OH&S performance. Next, the compliance and potential consequences of not conforming to the OH&S management system requirements, incidents and outcomes of investigation that are relevant to them, hazards, OH&S risks, and action determined that are relevant to them, the ability to remove themselves from work situation that they consider present an imminent and serious danger to their life or health. For ISO 14001, the organization shall ensure the person doing work under the organization's controls aware of a fully understand environmental policy, the significant environmental aspects, and related actual or potential environmental impacts associated with their work. Next, contributes to the effectiveness of the environmental management system, including the benefits of enhanced environmental performance, the implication of not conforming with the environmental management system requirements include not fulfilling the organization compliance obligation. Next, for ISO 9001, the organization shall ensure that persons doing work under the organization's control are aware of the quality policy, relevant quality objective, and the contribution to the effectiveness of the quality management system, including the benefits of improved performance and the implication of not conforming with quality management system requirements. For communication, we have general, internal communication, and external communication. For ISO 45001, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed for the internal and external communication relevant to the OHS management system. ISO 14001, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed for the internal and external communication relevant to the environmental management system. For ISO 9001, the organization shall determine the internal and external communication relevant to the quality management system. For internal communication, the organization shall internally communicate information relevant to the management system among the various levels and functions of the organization, including changes to the management system, and ensure its communication process enable workers to contribute to continual improvement. For external communication, for ISO 45001, the organization shall externally communicate information relevant to the OHS management system, established by the organization's communication processes and taking into account its legal requirement and other requirements. For ISO 14001, the organization shall externally communicate information relevant to the environmental management system as established by the organization communication process and as required by its compliance obligation. For 7.5, documented information, we have general, creating and updating, and also control documented information. For general, ISO 45001, the organization of OHS management system should include documented information required by this document, documented information determined by organization as being necessary for the effectiveness of the OHS management system. For ISO 14001, the organization's EMS should include documented information required by this international standard, documented information determined by the organization as being necessary for the effectiveness of the EMS. For ISO 9001, the organization quality management system should include documented information required by this international standard, documented information determined by the organization as being necessary for the effectiveness of the quality management system. For 7.5.2, creating and updating, when creating and updating documented information, the organization should ensure appropriate identification and description, format and media, review and approval for suitability and adequacy. For 7.5.3, control documented information, documented information of external determined by the organization to be necessary for the planning and operation of the management system should be identified as appropriate and controlled. Next, for operational planning and control. For 8.1, ISO 40001, the organization should establish, implement, control, and maintain the process needed to meet environmental management system requirement and to implement the action identification. Next, control, plan changes and review the consequences of unintended changes, taking action to mitigate any adverse effects as necessary. Next, to ensure that outsourced processes are controlled or influenced. For ISO 9001, the organization should plan, implement, and control the processes needed to meet the requirements of quality management system for the provision of products and service and to implement the action. Let's ensure the output of this planning should be suitable for the organization's operation, and also control plan changes, taking action to mitigate any adverse effects as necessary. For ISO 45001, the organization should implement, control, and maintain the processes needed to meet requirements of the OHS management system and to implement the action. Next, establish, implement, and maintain a process for the elimination of hazards, and reduction of OHS risk using the hierarchy of control. For 8.2, emergency preparedness and response. For ISO 14001, the organization should establish, implement, and maintain the process needed to prepare for and respond to potential emergency situations, and maintain documented information to the extent necessary to have confidence that the process is carried out as planned. For ISO 9001, it has requirements for product and service. The operation is communication with customer, which include providing information related to products and service, and determine the requirements for the products and service to be offered to the customer. The organization also should ensure that the ability to meet the requirement for the product and service to be offered to the customers, and conduct a review before committing to supply products and service to a customer. For ISO 45001, the organization should establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed to prepare for and respond to potential emergency situation. Establish a planned response to emergency situation, including the provision of first aid and training.
Okay, for class 9, performance evaluation. Monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. For ISO 1400, the organization shall ensure the calibrate or verify monitoring and measurement equipment is used and maintained as appropriate. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the process needed to evaluate fulfillment for its compliance obligation. For ISO 9001, the organization shall evaluate the performance and the effectiveness of the quality management system. The organization shall monitoring customer perception of the degree to which their need and expectation have been fulfilled. The organization shall analyze and evaluate appropriate data and information arising from monitoring and measurement. For ISO 4501, generally the organization shall evaluate the OSH management system. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a process for evaluating compliance with legal requirement, other requirement. The next slide is internal audit. For ISO 1401, generally the organization shall conduct internal audit at planned interval to provide information on whether the environment management system conform to the organization on requirement for its quality management system. The requirement of this international standard. The audit program, the organization shall ensure that the result of the audit are reported to relevant management. Meanwhile, for ISO 9001, the organization shall plan, establish, implement, and maintain an in-audit program, including the frequency, method, and possibilities, consultation, planning requirement, and reporting, which shall take into consideration the importance of the process concerned and the result of previous audit. For ISO 45001, the organization shall conduct internal audit at the planned interval to provide information on whether the oil management system confront the organization on requirement for its oil management system, including the oil policy and oil objective. The comment of this document. The organization shall ensure the relevant audit results are reported to workers and where there exists workers representative and other relevant interest parties. For the next slide is management review. For ISO 14001, top management shall review the organization environmental management system at planned interval to ensure its continuing sustainable adequacy and effectiveness. The management review shall consideration of include the status of action from previous management review, the extent of which environmental objectives have been achieved. For ISO 9001, generally the management shall review the organization quality management system at the planned interval to ensure its continuing suitable adequacy, effectiveness and alignment with the strategic direction of the organization. Management review input. The management review shall be planned and carried out, taking into consideration A. The status of action from previous management review. B. Change in external and internal issues that are relevant to the quality management system. Management review output. The output of management review shall include decision and action related to the opportunity for improvement and any need for a change to the quality management system. For ISO 45001, top management shall review the organization or management system at planned interval to ensure its continuing sustainable adequacy and effectiveness. The management review shall include consideration of the status of action from previous management review, the extent to which the OSH policy and the OSH objective have been met. For general, ISO 14001-2015 EMS identify opportunity for improvement and implement it to achieve the intended outcome of environment management system. For ISO 9001-2005 QMS, select opportunity for improvement and implement any necessary action to meet customer requirement and exchange customer certification. Meanwhile, for ISO 45001-2008, determine the opportunity for improvement and implement necessary action to achieve the intended outcome of management system. For next slide is non-conformity and corrective action. ISO 14001-2015 EMS, same with ISO 9001-2015 QMS. First, taking action to control, correct and deal with the consequences. Determine whether the action is required to eliminate the causes of the non-conformity. Documented proof regarding non-conformity action taken and the outcome of corrective action. For ISO 45001-2018, first a process including reporting, investigation and taking action need to be maintained in order to determine and manage accident and non-conformities. Second, the root cause of the accident need to carry out.